Welcome to this spiritual astrology video titled The Reiner Tragedy, Trump Deranged. I'm Altazar of AltazarAstrology.com and this YouTube channel. This video is going to explore the astrology of Rob Reiner, who tragically had been murdered along with his wife. And This is not to explore the guilt or innocence associated with that murder or who the suspect is, but this is more addressing his relation to Donald Trump and USA politics. This video is actually in response to Trump's recent post on his social media outlet, implying that Trump had no consideration for Rob Reiner and that Reiner was a negative influence on the USA. And due to his criticisms of Trump, he said or implied that Rob Reiner had, quote unquote, Trump derangement syndrome. Now, this kind of comment implies that it's kind of contrary to that, that maybe Trump himself's response was deranged. And his comment has been sharply condemned by major public celebrities and politicians, both Democratic and Republican, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, as being totally inappropriate, especially for the President of the United States, in the immediate aftermath of the Reiner family tragedy, noting that most public Democrats and officials in the media and others on the left even were quite, or at least much more reasonably respectful after right-wing conservative activist Charlie Kirk was murdered. So this video is going to focus on the astrology of Rob Reiner in relationship to the chart of the United States compared to that of Donald Trump. And will reveal, in fact, uh, what kind of more objective evidence is associated with Rob Reiner and his history, as well as his political activism and inclinations compared to Donald Trump. So let's take a look. However, before I do, I'd like to request from you a special favor that if you haven't already, these videos, including this one, uh, on my channel are meant to reveal the truth through spiritual astrology regarding political and spiritual growth issues and revelations about interesting and or notorious individuals. So please support this by subscribing and receiving further notifications of these insightful videos. Also, it would be appreciated if you find this informative, hit the like button. So now let's move ahead, and I'm going to talk a bit about the basis for what we're looking at here. And if you've seen any of my previous videos, I am evolving the credibility of what's called forensic astrology. So, for forensic astrology, which comes out of spiritual astrology from the ancient Vedic and other Eastern and Asian evolutions of the understanding of astrology as a way to understand a person's soul growth journey and the karma that they generate over the course of their soul growth journey. So that in forensic astrology, we're looking at a person's birth chart based on their birth date, time, and location, or at a minimum, even just their birth date, which uh, a full chart reveals as many as 72 factors that go into describing a unique individual. And the karma they bring into this life. So you got to be kind of open to the notion of reincarnation or that it's just not a coincidence who you are in this life and your potential gifts, talents, and natural abilities, as well as potential negativities or from your negative karma or proclivities towards a predisposition towards challenging dynamics in your personality, relationships, job, career, and or health. And everyone's calling to discover and discern what those issues are so that you can embrace the spiritual personal growth practices that are associated with healing and evolving your consciousness. So we all have a choice and free will to advance and progress our souls. And so forensic astrology, which we're going to be utilizing in this political and personality perspective associated with Donald Trump and Rob Reiner, uh, is going to look at the soul growth predispositional behavior of these individuals uh, in terms of their compatibility with each other or challenges they might have politically with each other, and also their relationship to, as we use geopolitical charts for countries like the United States. This is a more objective point of view of Rob Reiner's potential energetic effect in association with the chart of the United States and also that of Donald Trump's. To see from this more objective point of view, and believe me, I'm taking an objective point of view. I'm not necessarily favoring Trump or Reiner either way in this analysis to see uh, to what extent Donald Trump's comment in his recent post has some validity or might be fully deranged. So let's bring up these charts and see what we are looking at here. So we're going to bring up the chart of Rob Reiner, and we're going to bring up also a chart associated with where the planets are, and from a horoscope point of view, uh, at this time. And so let's bring that up. So now you're going to see the chart of Rob Reiner, and you're also going to see next to it the chart, his chart surrounded, that's the natal chart on the left, and on the right is his natal chart as it's surrounded by where the planets were on Sunday, December 14th. So, what we are doing here is, first of all, Rob Reiner is born on a Thursday. on March 6th of 1947. He was born in the year of the fire boar. That's Boar. And uh, just to mention another powerful celebrity born in the same Chinese year, Arnold Schwarzenegger and David Letterman. So these are very creative and talented people, uh, many born in 1947. And uh, and what stands out about their qualities or attributes is that they are deeply perceptive and sensitive people who can apply that sensitivity and perceptivity not only in a personal social level, but one that can be elevated to reflect policies or promulgate public service perspectives that promote positivity and favorable direction for people, generally mainstream, middle class, and others in society. And we also see Rob Reiner born on a Thursday, and Thursday is the day of ministry. It's Jupiter Day, and it implies those who have a calling to evolve being high-minded, uh, hopefully spiritually or at least morally or socially constructively guided to facilitate progressive humanitarian growth and well-being in the world. And born on the sixth day in numerology implies someone who, again, has a deep kind of sense of emotional perceptivity, inclination to be nurturing, uh, and or offering a kind of protective, caretaking orientation to others and the world. Uh, and due to their uh, very empathic sensibilities. And so that is then further exemplified by him being a Pisces in the 10 to 20 degree position of Pisces, which we call the second decanate in a 30-degree sign of correlation with the sign Cancer. Uh, and that being the sign of feelings, emotions, and maternality, or if you're a man, paternality, a caretaking quality. And we also see that Rob Reiner has the aspect of the humanitarian maverick. So Uranus in Gemini and the Libra decanate in a square. And I should point out, I did not, and often I don't, for many public figures, have the exact birth time for him. But his date and location of birth is accurate, which is enough to give us 80% or more of the most significant information a chart can reveal. So Uranus in that square does imply someone who is uh, unconventional and uh, could be quite a rebel in society, a radical even. Or another way to put it is someone who doesn't readily accept conventionality, tradition, or uh, structural, limited conservative expectations, and is constantly on the leading edge of progressive approaches and innovative approaches to serving society and or humanity. So, and he has the trine to Chiron in Scorpio, which also implies that his public service communications, Sun Mercury conjunction, uh, is inclined to be offering insights that lend towards healing divisions or uh, contrary conflict in society. Now, also his moon in Virgo implies that he would want to implement an identity that is practical and serves the world and can utilize resources. So these are some fundamentals. Now, his Venus in Aquarius, again, his Uranus being in the Libra decanate, Uranus being the ruler of Aquarius, and being directly affecting his Mercury and Sun identity, communicative expression. The Venus then further exemplifies in Aquarius him having a deep sense of value in his relationships, not only personal, but a desire to be part of a larger community of people that engage in political and or public relations communications that enhance humanitarian values and community. And that's directly associated with his Saturn in Leo, which is a calling for him to evolve confidence in his identity expression to do that mission. And that's Saturn being favorably aspecting his north node of the moon, the leading edge of his calling karmic personal growth, that of evolving confidence in his not only identity and demonstrative communication ability. Um, Now, the deeper question here is, well, what relationship did he have to Donald Trump vis-a-vis this? Now, let me just say this, that for those who don't know Rob Reiner's history, I mean, let's put it this way. He started out in an acting role in All in the Family back in the early 1970s, a revolutionary television show for its time, with Archie Bunker being kind of a working class guy with certain prejudices and Rob Reiner playing the role of what Archie Bunker called meathead, but being more the hippie and the progressive in terms of challenging Archie Bunker's prejudicials and more conservative uh, political and economic orientations. And then he grew out of that to eventually become a desire to be a producer director of movies and was continually on the leading edge of movies that were innovative. The Princess Bride, uh, When Harry Meets Sally, one of the most celebrated comical romance movies of the 80s, A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and others who had tremendous impact on these roles. And other movies. There was one about don't remember the name, but about his initial movie about a comical mockumentary of rock band. So at any rate, he continually moved the needle forward in progressive forms of innovative, comical, and dramatic movies. Now, also, I should point out that his history also implies his support of democratic activism and promotion of LGBTQ plus rights and the rights of immigrants and minorities, uh, greater advocacy for voting access and enhanced ability for democracy and the openness of uh, the population for input into democratic participation. So I will just point out here, and we're not going to get into the more legalistic and karmic problematic dynamics of his death that we'll explore at a future video, including the astrology of his son, Nick Reiner. But I will point out here that the astrology that existed at the time of his death showed here. You can see Pluto had recently moved into Aquarius, the early degrees, and was in a close, very close conjunction, which only happens once in a person's lifetime, to his Venus. And that I should also mention here the Mercury position or the the Venus position of the planet at that date, at 17 Sagittarius, was adverse to his Sun and Mercury. So the dual Venus issue here uh, implied some potential, even traumatic or dramatic, uh, contentious and or transformational contact or connection with a social association. Okay, we're not going to get into specific accusations here, but when Pluto is in an aspect to Venus, or Pluto in aspect to any significant planet, a personal planet like your sun sign, Mercury, or even Venus, it can imply a dramatic or even powerful, transformational, intense confrontation or uh, transformation of one's existence. And Pluto is associated with the planet Shiva in the Vedic, in the ancient context, which uh, worst case scenario can imply death. It often implies the death of one's ego towards a higher dimension of spiritual consciousness. So that's why it can imply just certain structures, relationships, or uh, political, economic circumstances dramatically changing in a person's life. Uh, and in rare or more unusual cases, uh, actual physical death. And we do see that Pluto is opposite his Saturn and also in conjunction with his Venus. Saturn can imply as well the Grim Reaper. So we're going to leave that behind now and move on to the relationship with Donald Trump. Why would Donald Trump be agitated to the point of needing to make such an acerbic, uh, if you will, deranged, uh, totally inappropriate public statement about Rob Reiner right immediately after this family tragedy with his Rob Reiner's death? Well, as you see here, I have Rob Reiner's birth chart, as you see on the left, overlaid as we do in a relationship compatibility uh, with the chart of Donald Trump. And so we're going to get into the charts of the United States comparatively in a moment. But the point I'm trying to make here is that you see here Rob Reiner's Sun and Mercury, and this is a complete accurate chart. In other words, we have the birth time for Donald Trump. So the layout of the houses is accurate, along with the birth date and location. So the Sun and Mercury of Rob Reiner are in the seventh house, along with the planet Mars, all in Pisces. Now, the seventh house is the house of marriage and long-term partnerships. That also implies political community and or public legal dynamics or connections, either favorably or difficult. And so that's why the seventh house is also considered, if they are planets there in adverse angle to the planets of Donald Trump, they can imply someone who is an outright, open, and obvious enemy of that individual. So, this is not to say one person or the other is correct or more favorable a person. But the point I'm trying to make here is that because of, first of all, his Mars, Rob Reiner's Mars, the planet of combativeness and ego aggression, being in somewhat of an out of sign, but close enough opposition to the Mars of Donald Trump, which is on his ascendant and which is most associated with his inclination towards Mars and Leo, self-absorbed narcissism and inclination towards a sense of superiority, is in direct conflict with. This is one of the most pronounced clashes of ego that two people could have, uh, and or be, with Mars in the seventh house of open enemies, outright enemies, and intensely passionate enemies of contrary personalities, if not political economic points of view. But then when you add the Sun, Mercury, Pisces in the direct square to the Uranus Sun of Donald Trump, and that's his radical kind of political conservative identity. Not to mention this, and Donald Trump has the moon opposite his sun, moon meaning his more outgoing personality and emotional reactivity. The Sun Mercury here being in a square directly to that opposition, you couldn't have a more contrary, emotionally provocative, egotistically confrontational, and angry reactivity between one or the other, or from one or the other. Yet Rob Reiner's critiques were much more uh, mature and tactful in his more critical evaluation of Trump's politics and policies rather than being so immaturely, verbally mocking and disparaging. So, with that said, we're now going to move on to the charts of the United States compared to these individuals. So now let's take a look at Donald Trump's chart vis-a-vis the United States and also Rob Reiner's, and we'll see who is more accurate in favor of the welfare of the United States as a country, given that Donald Trump in his Truth Social post implied that Rob Reiner was not good for the United States, and of course Trump was the best. He always used hyperbole regarding himself. But let's take a look here. So in the chart of the United States, we see that Rob Reiner has his Sun and Mercury in Pisces in the House of Communications, along with his Mars, uh, in the chart of the United States, and that his Uranus is in the area of community and political legal dynamics. And his Uranus is in a favorable aspect to Saturn, the position associated with uh, the political economic structure of the United States. So, favorably, Rob Reiner had always been somewhat of a liberal advocate for improving the government policies that would lend towards uh, favorable healthcare support, such as the ACA subsidies and or economic policies that would lend towards favorable conditions for workers and or uh, infrastructure to promote economic development in the United States, as well as the democratic rights of minorities, LGBTQ plus, and immigrants. We also see that his sun Mercury in Pisces in a favorable trine, along with his Mars in Pisces. All these planets in Pisces are in water signs in a favorable trine to the Venus, Jupiter, Sun, and Mercury, the whole stellium of Cancerian planets of the United States, therefore implying his identity expression, his communications, his media forms of entertainment, as they are associated with the third house, would be favorably complementary to addressing the welfare and basic cultural consciousness of the public and the mass of middle class, upper middle class, and working class people of the United States. And that those media creative outlets would especially favor sensibilities associated with economic policies, as that would favor the Mercury and the Pluto of the United States in the houses associated with economic policies. And the Venus position of Rob Reiner being in Aquarius would be also in the second house of economic development and financial resources, a favorable trine to the Uranus aspect of the United States, implying that his use of his own financial resources and or support for certain economic policies would support the Uranian or the democratic orientations of opportunities for the health and safety of the environment, uh, ecology of the United States, as well as the health and welfare of workers and unions in the United States. So, the objective reality of Rob Reiner's history and uh, forensic astrology corroborate that history favorably as a servant and a great contributor to the United States. Now, you've heard me already in Trump's horoscope for 2026 and previous horoscopes of Donald Trump, uh, of his relationship to the United States. And I'll just summarize it here that you see Donald Trump's sun sign in a conjunction with the planet Mars, which is in an adverse angle in the chart of the United States, implies someone who could be engaged in malfeasance or misappropriated political or economic directions that are uh, deceptive or fraudulent to the greater ideological well-being of the United States. It implies the potential use or misuse of the legal system or the military to promote his deceptive behaviors that are more associated with his consolidation of power. And this is further exemplified by his Saturn-Venus conjunction, which we see also in his natal chart, the in the House of Politics, his proclivity towards the desire to exploit any kind of political or business organization for his own personal financial gain. And in conjunction with Mercury and opposite Pluto of the United States, that implies the potential for utilizing the instruments of government for his own enrichment or the support of an elite socioeconomic group or oligarchy of billionaires to consolidate political power through the use of their financial manipulation of elections. Not good. And then also we see the Mercury in Cancer in square to the Saturn of the United States, and that correlating with Trump's own natal Mercury square Neptune, I've already talked about. His proclivity and his karmic predisposition, I've talked about, of being an opportunistic, pathological liar who will say anything that he feels can be utilized in the media or in public relations that furthers his own unique goals or selfish ambitions. There it is, right there, contrary to the political economic structure of the United States. So, is it any coincidence that now we're seeing that his house of cards are beginning to collapse? As I've talked about in my previous video on the horoscope for Donald Trump, subtitled Decline, Desperation, and Failure. That's what's going on over the next 4 months for him. Thank you for following through with this video. And again, if you are inclined to want to support this channel, I appreciate your hitting the subscribe button or click a like if this individual video was insightful for you. And I will just briefly post my contact information for those of you who are interested in contact with me for any kinds of questions or especially a free complimentary reading to see if you resonate with my kind of service. So there it is. Feel free to visit my website, altazarastrology.com, and or contact me at that email address, altazarastrology@gmail.com. Be well.